Hi everyone, I have very exciting news. The first book in my mystery novella series, Winter in Vale, is finally out. It is live. The title is Violet, and you can find it on Amazon KDP, Barnes & Noble, Apple, Vivlio, Kobo, Smashwords, and several other storefronts. You can find it by clicking one of the links in the video description. My Kickstarter campaign has about 2.5 weeks left to reach its goal, so if you haven't contributed yet, please use the link in the description below to find my campaign. I appreciate whatever support you can give. You can also support me by leaving reviews. In the meantime, please enjoy this excerpt from the beginning of the book. The images are from future covers in the series. Happy reading. None of the children in Vale had ever seen a dead body. It was an October Friday, just after school let out for the day. Normally school lasted till mid-afternoon, but today was a half-day. The students hadn't even had lunch yet. Most of them headed for the school buses lined up in a slanted row beside the courtyard, while a few dozen began to gather in small clusters along the side of the building. One 9-year-old girl with blonde hair broke from her cluster as a boy her age approached. "Neil, come on! We're waiting for you! We're going to get ice cream!" Their group complete, the children trooped across the courtyard. Some of them zipped up their long-sleeved jackets. The farther they got from the rumbling school bus engines, the more palpably they could feel Vermont's 50-degree weather. On most school days, parents imposed a strict rule that their children must be home by a certain hour in the afternoon, so a half-day gave the kids some time to stop for a treat. Sadly, however, as the group approached the ice cream shop, "Aw, man," Emma exclaimed in dismay, "it's closed." "They must have just closed for the season," lamented Kirsten, who was a head taller than the rest and prone to pretending she was older, too. In low spirits, they crossed Main Street, left behind the old, narrow brick buildings that housed most of Vale's local businesses, and shuffled along through neighborhoods of Victorian-style houses of varying colors. "Wow," Neil remarked as they passed a red 2-story house where in the space of the morning 20 pumpkins had materialized all over, even on the roof. "I heard the deputy mayor has a giant pumpkin growing on her front lawn," said a boy named Chris. Neil tilted his head back and squinted at the foothills up ahead, which formed the edge of town. Chris barked out a laugh. "You can't see it from here. It's not that big." Neil turned red and looked down. "We can see the lights of Mr. Pressler's mansion from our house," said Emma. "My dad says the people who live on the sides of the mountain like to turn on their lights at night to remind us that they have more money than we do," said Kirsten. The children's pace slowed as the sidewalk climbed a gentle incline toward the houses nestled at the base of the foothills. A silence fell over them, perhaps born of despondency over their missed treat. All of a sudden, at a bend in the road, one of them pointed and exclaimed, "Snowflake!" It was true. High up in the air, bright white against the dark green of the trees on the mountainside, a big fluffy snowflake was drifting down, fluttering this way and that. As one, the children shot from the sidewalk and onto the grass, where the tree line neared the pavement. The first snowflake of winter was something of a big deal in Vale. If one of them could catch the snowflake on their tongue... It was a mad scramble there at the edge of the woods, with everyone shoving each other, necks craned upward, eyes strained, tongues out, stretching as high as they could. If the snowflake sensed its doom, it didn't seem too bothered by it. It tumbled lazily down, rolling over to and fro on the air currents. A gloved hand reached up. "You can't use hands! It has to land right on your tongue for it to count!" Kirsten almost won the prize, but she exhaled at the wrong moment, sending the snowflake zooming toward her shorter comrades. Neil cried out and covered his face. "Did it get in your eye?" "It went up my nose!" The lot of them burst into laughter. "Does it still count?" Neil wanted to know. The excitement over, in high spirits they proceeded along the sidewalk, away from the trees. It was a good thing the snowflake had not blown into the forest. If it had, the kids would have been breaking a rule by going in after it. None of them was allowed to play in the woods unsupervised. Neil said that the inside of his nose had never felt so cold before. He was worried about getting brain freeze. Then Kirsten stopped and said, "Hey, where's Emma?" One by one they turned on the spot. They spread out a little, staring down the road, past houses, around trees. "Emma? Emma! Is she hiding? There's nowhere to hide. Where did she go? Did she just leave us? Without us seeing? I don't think so. She always says goodbye to us. Was she still with us when we ran after the snowflake?" An abrupt, grim silence met Neil's question. Each child played back the memory of Emma pointing and shouting, "Snowflake!" All of them had instantly rushed toward it, their eyes on the prize, blind to everything else. Anything could have happened to Emma and they wouldn't have seen. Quickly they backtracked the way they'd come, down the sidewalk to the bend in the road that nearly bordered the edge of the woods. They peered in, squinting. "Emma?" one of them called. There was no answer. "Emma!" another of them tried, more loudly. The only response was the wind whistling as it picked up speed. Neil asked, "Should we go in and look for her?" The kids looked at each other and didn't answer. Here at the edge of the forest, the trees were spaced far apart, but the further you went in, it was all bushes and trunks and pine needles pressed against each other. None of them would be able to go in that far and still be able to see all around. Swallowing, Kirsten said, "No, we should get a grown-up. Who lives closest?" One of the other girls timidly raised her hand. Kirsten pointed at her. "You guys go with her and tell her parents. I'll stay here in case Emma comes back or calls for help." "I'll stay too," said Neil. Suddenly Chris pointed. "Wait, there she is!" He must have had good eyesight, for the others couldn't see anything. He was pointing into the woods. They squinted and craned their necks. "Where?" "Right there!" Finally the others spotted her. She was coming out of the woods toward them. At first they had only glimpses of her as she wove between the trees, passing in and out of their field of view. Her blonde hair, her silver jacket, her fuchsia backpack. Finally she emerged from the woods where they could see her more fully. "Emma?" said Kirsten. "Are you okay?" She did not look okay. She wouldn't look any of them in the eye. Her eyes stared straight ahead and down, almost expressionless. Her mouth was parted and she was breathing heavily, though not from exertion. Concerned, one of her friends reached out to touch her, and she flinched, trembling. "Emma?" Emma ran. With all of her friends staring after her, she ran full tilt into the street and up the road and out of sight. She didn't stop running till she reached her house. She ran in through the garage and into the kitchen by the side door. Her mother was inside, making a red velvet cake in the shape of a human heart, as practice for the upcoming Halloween baking contest. "Hi, honey," she cooed. "How was school?" For a moment Emma stood where she was, still staring ahead, wide-eyed, at something that wasn't there. Her mother had her back to her, mixing ingredients in a bowl. When Emma didn't answer, she glanced over at her. Seeing her mother's face made Emma blink, and perhaps out of habit she answered, "It was good." "Good!" Her mother turned back to her mixing bowl. "Did they give you any homework for the weekend?" Emma took a deep breath. What was that?" Emma gulped. "I found a dead body." Emma's mother decided she needed to add more red food coloring, but the bottle on the counter was empty. She began searching the cabinets. "Found a what?" "A dead body. A girl." "Oh, are you guys playing CSI again?" Emma shook her head dully. "Aha!" Her mother found some behind the oregano. "I think she was a little older than me." "Then I," her mother automatically corrected her. "A little older than I." "There you go." Shaking the bottle over the bowl, she bestowed a generous amount of red food coloring on the mixture. "Yes," she said to herself, "much more like blood." Emma turned a little green at the word. Mechanically, she took off her shoes and went out, heading for her bedroom. A minute later, Emma's father came in. "Was that Emma? Is she home?" "Yep," said her mother. "Oh, good." He let out a breath of relief. His wife turned to him, still mixing. "What's the matter?" He showed her his phone. "There's an Amber Alert. Just got a text. Little girl missing. The sheriff and his deputies are all out looking for her. Just wanted to make sure ours was home safe. Are you all right?" His wife had gone completely still, her eyes like saucers, one hand on the edge of the bowl, the other on the big spoon, mid-stir. She stayed that way for a few seconds, then like a bullet from a gun she abandoned the cake mixture and barreled past her husband, calling, "Emma! Emma!"